Today we're taking a look at this LisamRC ML210 quadcopter frame. This one came from GearBest, and it came in this anti-static bag with this cardboard cover up over the top of it. And if this had a hole in it up here in the top, I would have sworn this came from a store. You know, the hole for the hook hanging on the rack. Anyway, it came in this anti-static bag, and this is what the frame looks like. This has a lot of uniqueness to it. I haven't seen a lot of other quadcopters take this approach. This one has a 1.5 millimeter top plate. It also has a 5 millimeter lower plate. It has the camera mount up here in the front, and it's angled slightly back, so at least you'll have a little bit of angle to it. It would have been kind of nice if they had a little bit more angle, but you know, maybe that's what people like this. Down here on the bottom, it has a separate power distribution board here, and it's held in place with these little spacers that space it off of the main plate. And so there should be enough room inside there, I think, to put your ESCs inside. We'll take a look at that in just a second. On the bottom of the plate, the bottom of the frame, you can see here how it's kind of cut out a little bit. And that's probably just to remove some of the weight that a 5 millimeter frame brings along with it. The front arms are cut out and the back arms, and also the middle section here. Again, we'll take a look at that in a minute. These arms are cut out, actually have holes in them so they can use the 2200 motors or the 1806 motors. If you're using the 1806 motors, the wires are going to come out like right here, and so it's kind of coming down the arm like you want to. If you use the 2200 motors, that'll be these separate holes, then the wires either going to come this way or it's going to come out the back. So it's not going to run straight down the arm like an 1806 one would. Up here on the front, it has the same kind of thing. The 1806 wires would run straight down like this, whereas the 2200 motor are going to run this way, out this way, or out this way. When I build these, if the motor wires don't come straight down the arm, I like to put them to the middle of the frame and then bend them back in so they just, you know, kind of have a little bit more protection in the crash where it comes down like this. It's not landing on the wire up in the front, but the wire's protected back and back. Let me go ahead and take this frame apart and we'll take a look at some of the inside part of this. This frame uses M2.5 screws. And like I said, this main plate here is 5 millimeters thick. And these are the screws that came with it. Whoa, almost dropped it. These are the screws that came with it. And the problem with this screw is that when you put the top plate on like this and you try to run your screw through the hole to mount it, then here's the screw. It's in there all the way, and it doesn't even make it all the way through the board. So the screws that came with it aren't long enough. In here, I'll hold it up here on the outside so you can see it. There's a screw on the carbon fiber. If I can, there we go. You can see how it's just a little bit short of even getting through the frame. So I don't know how you're supposed to mount this frame, how you're supposed to mount the top part on here without having some longer screws. And like I said, these are M2.5 screws, so you need 5 millimeters to get through here, get through the plate, plus maybe another 3 or 4 to get up into the up into these upper spacers here. So you really need some like M8 or M9, or not M, but 8 millimeter or 9 millimeter screws to go all the way through this board up into the top plate, up into the upper spacer, so they can help hold it together a little better. So here's the power distribution board, and it's held in here with these 4 screws that go down through the plate here. And like I said before, this is kind of cut out a little bit, probably to lighten it up a little bit because it is a 5 millimeter plate. And here's the power distribution board. The power distribution board has the places in the middle for your ESCs. So if you have the small ESCs, they may actually be able to fit in here. Then it has a power back here for your battery to plug into, and one up in the front for your camera or your video transmitter. Now, another thing that's kind of odd about this is these screws idea that they came up with for this. This is the oddest thing I've seen for a while. It's actually made up of 3 parts. First of all, there's this little screw, and the little screw goes through the power distribution board like you would expect, just like that. Then there's this one, this piece here, and this side has a little bit more open, of a hole, and this side is a little bit more of a, if you can see it, there we go, maybe. Yeah, that one's a little bit more closed. So we take the side that's a little bit more open, and we put it on the screw here, like this, and if I can get it on here while I'm recording, there it goes. That goes on there like that. Okay, so now the screw obviously is not long enough to go all the way through this because they're just little shorties. So instead, to give you this other extra piece, and it's just a screw, there's no head on it or anything. And so this goes in here and screws into the top plate here, into this little spacer, and that's what gives you the length you need to get through the upper plate. So that's a little bit different than what I'm used to, but okay. So if we go ahead and put this on here now, and I got all 4 of these on here, so they are, you know, they're completely through. And this one here gets through a little bit, but the other 3 don't quite make it through. So you need a little bit longer screws. And again, on this one, you really need 5 millimeters for the plate, and you need 3 or 4 up into the spacer. Plus, you need a little bit more coming off the bottom for this spacer and for the power distribution board. Okay, I just measured. From the bottom of the power distribution board to the top of the spacer is 6 millimeters. So you need 6 for this, plus another 5, plus another 4. So that comes up to be about 15 millimeter screws that you really need for this power distribution board to mount correctly to the bottom plate here. So just to show you the measurements on here, here's the main plate here. It comes in at 5.11 millimeters. The upper plate up here comes in about 1.4, 1.39 millimeters, about 1.5. And the amount of space that you have in between these 2 plates comes up to be about 35 millimeters, if I got it straight. 35, there we go, 35 millimeters. So here's the scale, and if I put this quadcopter on there, the frame comes out to weigh about 101.4 grams. So here's the ML210 sitting next to the LS210. The LS210 has solid arms on it, so when the propellers blow air down, all the air has to go around these arms. Whereas on this one, when the propellers blow down, some of the air can actually get through the arms, and so that'll let the motors be a little bit more efficient in their thrust. Overall, though, this frame's kind of cool looking. It has plenty of room inside here for your accessories to fit. It has the 4 holes inside here for a power distribution board or your flight controller to go in there. Also, it has the holes up here on the top for your battery strap to run through. And if you were to mount your video transmitter here, you have these smaller, well, actually more narrow holes here that you could use to zip tie your video transmitter into place. Overall, though, I like this frame. I just wish they would have given you some 15 millimeter screws to go through these 4 places back here in the back, and also some 9 millimeter screws to go up through these front holes, just so that you'd have one long screw instead of fiddling with the 2 smaller ones through here. Anyway, this is the ML210 from GearBest. If you're interested in it, I'll have some links down in the description. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll try to help you out as best I can. And as always, thanks for watching.